Hi everyone, I'm Stacy, and today we are going to be making decorative paper frames. So the materials you need are in front of me. You'll need a glue stick, some scissors, colored paper, aluminum foil, and a piece of chipboard, or if you don't have chipboard, which is really just a thick cardboard, you could cut a piece of cardboard from a box the size of a piece of paper, or you could do without and just use a stiff piece of paper for backing. You also might want a ruler and a pencil, but those aren't quite necessary for today's project. So as we begin, I'm going to move my papers out of the way and choose the color that I'd like to use for the general background of my frame. I'm going to go with purple, and I'll just kind of move everything else out of the way. And then when I glue, I am making sure that all of the edges have glue on them. I don't want the glue to be too thick and goopy, because if that happens when I glue my paper down, there will be some big bumps. So just carefully covering all of the edges and lining my paper up and smoothing it out with my hands. This next part is somewhat optional, so if you would like to have a center portion of your frame marked for where whatever image, piece of artwork, or photograph is going to go inside, to mark where that will go, you might want a ruler and a pencil, but not everyone works so methodically, so it's really up to you. If you would like to measure, you'll grab a ruler and a pencil, and then I have just measured 2.5 inches in from each edge, and then as I do that, I trace along each of my markings so that I create a border around the edges of my frame and a rectangle in the center where the artwork will go. So now I really like to work just by cutting out some shapes. I typically don't have a strong idea of what my project will look like, but again, everyone works differently, so maybe you want to come up with a draft or design first. I like to start by thinking about what colors I like together, so I am working with a purple frame. I think yellow complements that nicely, and so I'm drawing shapes to cut out, but I'm not totally sure where I'm going to put them. I like to just have a variety of shapes and different colors that I can work with to create my design. And then I may not use all of them, that's okay. I can just store the extra pieces. But when I draw my shapes, I prefer to draw them with a pencil first, and then I really carefully and slowly cut them out with my scissors. You'll notice that I also tend to work along the edges and corners of a paper. That just helps me to save the paper so that if I only use a little bit of it, I don't waste the whole paper and I'll have some left over for another art project. And as you can see, you can also just freely cut with your scissors. You don't have to draw what you'll cut beforehand. Here I'm just going to cut out some strips of paper to make stripes on my design, and I don't feel the need to draw that beforehand because that's something that I've done a lot and I feel pretty comfortable just doing freehand. And then I'll add some extra colors, so I think green would look really nice. I'll add some blue as well. And then once I have these colors cut, it's time to figure out how long I will incorporate them into my design. At this point, I'll just move my shapes to the side so that I can begin gluing them down onto my frame. And when I do this, again, I don't plan it out too far in advance. I'm just going to start at the corners because that feels like a natural place to start decorating to me. And again, when I glue, I want to make sure that it's not super goopy. I don't want to have a lot of wrinkles. Just a little bit on the paper is enough to make it stick because it's very lightweight. So I'll start working along my edges, glue some shapes down, and go from there. And here I like to just start again by placing some of the papers onto my frame to see where I'd like to put them, make sure they look the way I'd like them to look before gluing them down. And I tend to do this with each piece before I glue it. So I might shift some things around. It just helps to get a better sense of where you need extra color, what colors are working best with each other. Working on my frame this way also gives me the opportunity to make sure I'm bringing the colors all the way around the frame. So I notice I need maybe a little bit of yellow along the sides so that your eye will circle all the way around the frame. You'll trace the circle at the bottom, the stripes up the side, the design at the top, and the stripes back down on the left side. And I'll do the same thing with the small blue circles. And once I've finished that, I can add the last final touch, which will be my aluminum foil. I think this is a really fun material to use, one, because most people have it, and also it's so shiny, it's really workable, so you can keep it flat, you can smooth it out, you can crumple it up, you can mark it with a pencil. It's really versatile and great to use on so many different projects. And on this project, I'm using the foil just to add a little touch of elegance or fanciness, just a little special touch on my frame to make it feel just that much more special. And I'm not adding too much foil on here, just some small shapes in the same way that I drew and then cut my paper shapes. I drew and then cut my foil shapes and glued them onto my frame. And now that I have finished adding my foil, I'm done with my decorative frame. So thank you all for joining me today. Take care.